What's good, everyone? Alex Trataros here with another Knicks episode of the Knicks, Jets, etc. podcast. And with me, as always, my buddy, my cousin, pal, the man plan, the one and only, John Meleka. But before we ask John how he is doing, everyone, you know the drill. If you listen to this podcast and you haven't done so already, please make sure to subscribe. We're on all audio listening platforms. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, Alexa, Stitcher, you name it. We are there. If you listen to us on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to give us that 5-star rating. And if you listen to us on Apple, please make sure to leave a comment. We're also partnered with Minute Media and Fansided. So if you want to go over to the Daily Knicks and the Jet Press, you can find this podcast over there too. And if you are lucky enough and the actual Fansided main page writes about one of those two teams, you will find us there too. We're also on YouTube, Knicks, Jets, etc. period. Subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you know when a new episode drops. When you watch a video, hit the like button, leave a comment, add to the conversation. We want to know your thoughts and opinions on whatever we talk about. We got another podcast too, Winning Picks Weekly. John, video producer Greg, and our guy, Chip Murphy, co-host Chip Murphy too. They go through everything, NBA, NFL, PGA, MLB. You name it. If it's a sport, these guys are going to bet on it, all right? And if you need to know, if you need that info because you want to put money down on the line, make sure to go check these guys out, but make sure to bet responsibly. And then last and certainly not least, please make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. We are there. Now, with that being said, John, how you doing, bro? How are you feeling today?
Dude, I am fantastic. We got the 6-2 Rangers win yesterday. Easy dub, game one. I mean, between game 7 and game 1, thank God for these New York Rangers, man. It's been amazing, like non-stressful game 7 and game 1. Now we've beaten the Lightning 4 times this year, 4-0. I like where it's heading, man. I'm excited for this Oilers game tonight. I'm excited for the NBA Finals. I'm hyped about the Yankees. Another dub today, and then they're playing the doubleheader. You see you wearing your shirt today, your boy Gardy.
Yes, sir.
I mean, everything's looking good, man. Even the Mets, dude, 10 and a half games. I mean, they got the Dodgers coming in. I'm smelling a sweep coming. But other than that, dude, everything's fantastic. The vibes are great. How you doing?
I'm all right, man. I'm in a little pain, as I told you, and our wonderful guest today. We'll get to him in a second. My back is killing me, man. I'm getting old. Apparently, 33 doesn't give you any roses and sunshine. It just gives you pain. Woke up, get out of bed. I'm just like, oh, my back. So every time I laugh, there's probably going to be a little bit of pain in my face. So for anyone who's watching on YouTube who gets some sort of sick pleasure of seeing someone in pain, make sure to go turn there. But other than that, man, it's a good day. Yankees won, as you talked about. We got the NBA Finals. Rangers had a great win yesterday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. You know, playing the kids, man. They're playing the kids. Something that's been echoed throughout the New York Knicks. The Rangers are playing the kids. And these guys are doing it. They're competing.
If it's Rangers in 5 and I'm there for game 5 of the Garden, I'm gonna lose my mind. So for God's sake, like I don't even know if I can handle that. So I think I might go to Central Park on Sunday. It's gonna be a wild week, man. I'm really excited for this series. And we have the NBA Finals. That's like on the back burner here.
Man, there's a lot going on right now. This is a good time for sports, but I can't hold this guy off to the side any longer. Returning guest once again, friend of the pod. Awesome guest. We got Corey Tulaba, aka NBA Draft Dude. You can go find that YouTube channel. And curator of Vibes for the No Ceilings NBA org, man. The wonderful freaking newsletter. Like I honestly, like you guys do a phenomenal job over at No Ceilings. I love the Knicks article that came out and just getting the round table idea of what the Knicks need. Loved it. And
that's why we're here.
That's why we're here, man. That's why we're here. But before we get into what the Knicks need, we got some, I don't know if it's breaking news, a little bit breaking news, but before I get to that, actually, Corey, how are you doing, man? How are you feeling today?
Man, it's a good day. It's a beautiful day. You know, the No Ceilings crew, we had our biggest day yet yesterday as we launched our draft guide and our merch store. So it's just been awesome. The draft is nearing. We're at the NBA Finals. Like once the finals end, you know, whether it's 4 games or 7, like that's when the draft season, like all of a sudden, everybody's focused on it. There's no more distractions. So trying to gear up for the madness ahead, but it's a good time, man. I'm a New Yorker. I know that, if you've seen me on the show before, you might know I'm a Bulls fan, but I am a Rangers fan as well. So it's a good time, in New York right now. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Who's your baseball team? This is the bigger question.
To be completely honest, I grew up a Mets fan, but
okay.
I'm not really a baseball guy.
They're still doing well, so there you go.
Yeah, I can't say I claim really a baseball team where I'd like get excited. I like, going to baseball games, fine, I guess. But one time, me and my buddy, we were like, "Are we gonna?" Maybe it was like during a lockout season or something. We were like, "Should we get into baseball?" I guess, because what else are we gonna do? So we picked teams out of a hat. We tried that. I got the Mariners. It didn't last very long.
Yeah, but they did well for a little bit. Right? It was early. They had an early hot start, and then it was.
I was kind of excited when I pulled the Mariners because I was like, all right, you got like the history of Griffey and from back in the day and that whole team. So when I cared about baseball, but it didn't last very long. I'm not a baseball guy. It's too slow for me. I need some action. I need some pace. You know what I mean?
And that's why you cover the NBA, especially the draft portion, because talk about fast pace. The draft, I feel like, is the fastest paced of it all, man. Like there's so many kids, there's so many options for teams. Teams want to know who they should be gearing towards. But like I said, before we get into that, we got to discuss this Rick Brunson news. And I feel like, Corey, every time you come on the show, we get some sort of Knicks news that you got to help us break down, which is great. So we got the New York Knicks are finalizing a deal with Rick Brunson, who has ties to Tom Thibodeau when Tom Thibodeau was an assistant coach here back in the late 90s. And Rick Brunson had 2 stints with the Knicks. As we know, that was Leon Rose's first client with CAA. So a lot of ties right there. The Knicks are according to reports, are interested in his son, Jalen Brunson, who Jalen Brunson also said that Rick is nowhere near a player that he is. So that's out there, which I find hilarious. So what do you guys think, man? Is this the Knicks trying to solidify getting Jalen Brunson, or is this just a normal move? And Corey, I know you live in New York. You got a lot of Knicks fans, even though you're a Bulls fan. Yep. I know you're still up to date with all the Knicks news. So I'm going to go with you first. What do you think of this type of move?
I mean, it's definitely a chestnut checkers type move from the organization. I think it's savvy. Whether it leads to, Jalen signing with the Knicks or not, who knows? But at the end of the day, even if that's not the case, like Brunson is a guy who has been with Thibodeau, as you mentioned, for years and years on end, like coaching staffs. I think he was with him in Minnesota and Chicago at times. So there's a familiar. I'm not even going to attempt to say that word. So
it's all good. I feel
he's familiar. He's familiar. They're familiar with each other. And if it leads to, if they're doing a little college, let the uncle be the third assistant coach on the bench move and it works, then great. Right. But at the end of the day, it's probably going to rely more so on, is Dallas willing to back up the Brinks truck and, pay Jalen what he feels he's worth. And if they do, it's a hard situation to leave, but I mean, the allure of New York is always there. It's there.
It is there. We've been living off that allure for a very long time, and yet has attracted. It did attract Melo, but after Melo is Emmanuel Mudiay. I'm not going to go down the list. I don't fuck down the list. But yeah, I mean, as an assistant coach, he was assistant coach for the Denver Nuggets back in 2007, 2009 to 2010. The Hartford assistant coach for college. Chicago Bulls. He was there too in 2010 to 2012. With the Bobcats
when the times were good.
When the times were good. Bulls, Knicks fans, we got a lot of things in common, although you guys made the playoffs this season. 2012, 2013 with the Bobcats, 2016, 2018 with the Timberwolves, now at Camden High School. Has had, I'd say, like a steady assistant coaching gig, even though he's been in and out of the NBA, meh as a player. But John, what do you think about the Rick Brunson signing?
So, I mean, I think you guys, pretty much covered it in a nutshell by itself. I think it's a fine signing, bringing back the old vibes. He's, taking over Kenny Payne's spot. He's just got to fit in. I can't imagine, that you have too much of a huge role as an assistant in a Thibodeau, kind of coaching staff. You guys kind of all just mold to him. You probably just run his stats. when you talk about his son, I mean, I agree with Corey. It's definitely a chess type move. Like, we have nothing to lose here. You know, he's an assistant coach in the league. He's a basketball guy. He played for the Knicks. There's nothing to lose on that front. And, you know, maybe his son will want to come play for his dad, you know, in New York. You know, maybe that's a really cool thing for him. Maybe he'll give up $1 or $2 million, you know, on the table for that reason. For Jalen specifically, even without his dad, there's so much smoke about how Dallas is going to pay anything for him. I would love to see it. Honestly, I would love to see Dallas max out, you know, the super max with Luka, and then give Jalen Brunson $30 million, you know, $25 million a year. I would love to see how that works out for them. I cannot imagine that that's really what they're going to do, because I mean, 3 guards for them didn't work. 2 guards for them. Like, that's not what Luka needs. He needs different kind of players, not really people who want the ball in his hand. He's such a high usage player. So it feels like Cuban is just running up the score, like, so that someone could just out pay for him and he doesn't have to, you know, kind of bear the brunt of, you know, losing a good player to the fan base. Because, like, you just had the KP trade, right? Now we're going to lose Brunson, you know, and all you have to show for it is, you know, you did a really good Luka trade, but that's pretty much it. So I don't know. There's been so much smoke about this whole Leon Rose thing with Brunson. I just have this feeling that Brunson's coming. So that, you know, it has nothing to do with his dad. it just feels like an easy fix here, because as we know, the salary cap is rising. Fred VanVleet, it just feels like the Fred VanVleet situation. We all sat here. We didn't want to pay him. It was going to be too much money. And just 1.5 years later, 2 years later, where he honestly hasn't done anything crazy, we're like, damn, that's such a cheap contract. I wish we had Fred VanVleet. You know what I mean? So I just feel like it's going to be the same exact boat in 2 years. So we'll see how that goes.
I feel you on that. And that's a good point that you brought up by him, you know, trying to raise Brunson's value, have someone overpay and then be like, oh, well, you know, that was a little too rich for my blood. You know, I feel like that's kind of what the Knicks did with Jeremy Lin. It's like, yeah, go out there, go see. And then you see him get like, oh, I forget what that contract was. Why do I feel like it was like 15 annual? I'm like,
I think 15. It was I think it was one of those front loaded deals, like Morey, because Morey got the Bulls with that too, with Omar Sheik. He like, for whatever the way the contract works, because they were like, you know, Lynn wasn't like a draft pick or whatever, and like I think Sheik was a second round pick. There, he was able to structure it so the restricted free agency was like you could front load it at 15 million, and then it like goes down outrageously in years 2 and 3. But it's like that first initial cap hit screws like the teams or whatever it was. It like, because I think the teams are probably in like the tax. I don't know. He's a smart guy, that Morey.
Yeah, he is. And I think it was something like that, because when I saw it, I was like, that's a little too rich for the Knicks blood, and especially with you have Amare, you have Melo, you had Tyson Chandler. There were guys that were signed. So
and at the time, like now you say 15 million, it doesn't sound like much, but at the time the salary cap wasn't what it is now. So that 15 million was actually more like, you know, 20 something million in comparison. So that's one of the things with it too.
And I feel like, and I know we're really going off the rails right here, but I feel like that's what some fans still remember. It's like 10 million, 15 million. It's like, that's relatively.
Percentage of the cap.
yeah.
Percentage of the cap is what matters. But can we just stick with the rumors for 1 second? And we're going to shift here to the NBA draft. Like, what do you guys think of these Ivy rumors? Right now we're trading Randle, a pick, as you know, Grimes, maybe, just all these things for, you know, for Ivy. Like, what are you guys' thoughts on that? There's rumors galore here.
Yeah, I mean, the rumors I saw was like Randle and 11 for 4 and like Harrison Barnes or something.
Yeah, and there's a third team involved as well.
And I was like, why would Sacramento do that? Like, I would rather have both the 4th pick and Harrison Barnes. Like, I'd rather have Harrison Barnes than Randle and the 4th pick overall. Like, so it was weird. But like, you know, if you watched the like draft special that ESPN did, I don't remember who it was that actually said it, but it was Gavoni, Pelton, and Bobby Marks, and they were like, "Give me your, you know, crazy take." And even one of them was like, "The Knicks will trade up to 4 to get Jaden Ivey."
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a little smoke out there. I haven't heard anything definitive, like from my, sources who are telling me stuff about there being legitimacy to it, but that doesn't mean that there's not any rumors. And obviously the CAA thing, the Knicks were at his pro day recently, you got Leon in the background getting snapped up. So, I mean, of course, I'd imagine every team that was there is probably like, how do we trade up to get this kid? Because Jaden Ivey's really good, but it's going to be hard. I mean, that's a big time jump to get from 11 to 4 without giving up like massive future capital plus, a really good player.
Right.
So,
no, and that's the thing, right? And like, even speaking of that, it was Leon Rose sitting next to some of the Kings front office members watching Ivy's pro day, and you're like, ooh, we should take note of this. And then you have, the interview that you're talking about where the wildest take is Knicks moving up to 4. And it's not like we haven't heard this before. Like, we heard this 2 years ago where they wanted to move up for Obi Toppin. We heard this last year where they were trying to move up to get guys like Trey Murphy and so forth so they can get in position. And then it's just, once again, you're starting to hear you're starting to get the smoke of like, oh, the Knicks want to trade up. It's like they do want to trade up, but it's all about what are they willing to part with in order to trade up, and having a trade. It's not. I think that 3-team trade that was circling around, it was Sacramento, Portland, and the Knicks. Somehow Josh Hart, Harrison Barnes, and Julius Randle are all involved, and the Knicks come out with Harrison Barnes and the first round pick. I'm like, how does this even work? It's just
sounds fantastic for us.
That'd be great.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Barnes and the 4th pick. Like, did you guys think from the Knicks perspective of just the player? Like, do you think Ivy solves the problems of the Knicks? Like, if just in general?
He's certainly, I don't know if he solves the problem, but he's definitely part of the solution, like a big part of the solution. So, I mean, like, Jaden Ivey is not going to make, let's say like, Mitch is still there. I don't know. Who else is like a one position guy? Like, he's not going to fix the problem that the Knicks still have a lot of like guys who only play one spot. Like, if Randall's
like
still
Obi
there, Obi Toppin, and maybe Obi can play 2 spots, especially down the road. Like, I'm not out on him playing small ball 5 eventually, but he's certainly not ready for it now. And he's not going to get the opportunity because the Knicks have Taj Gibson, who's going to still play minutes, and probably Mitchell Robinson, probably as of now, Nerlens Noel. So it's like, how many minutes is anybody else going to get at that spot?
Right.
But he's not going to solve that issue. But if he's going to be your lead player potentially, which, that's his potential, or at least be the co-lead with RJ, then yeah, I think he helps part of it. And then it's the easy part is getting the guys out on the fringes. And once you figure out whatever the Randle move is, and if he's part of the Randle deal, I guess that's how, assuming you trade up somehow, Randle's involved. But if he's not, whatever, you figure that out, then you move forward. And it's about getting guys on the fringes to fit that more modern structure, to put pieces around Ivy and RJ as your 2 go-to players.
For sure. And you said, like, he's part of the solution, not the answer, because I don't think the Knicks need everything. And I want your opinion on this, Corey. Like, I don't think the Knicks need everything, but I look at this team, I'm like, I don't see the point guard of the future of this team in this draft. I know there's some mock draft saying that we're looking at Williams or Duran for center if Mitch leaves, but I'm looking at the wings. What do you think the Knicks needs are right now? Because we have, we got Quickly, we got RJ, we got Grimes, we got Jericho Sims, we got Obi, we got Cam on the team. Like, we got all these young guys, and it's everyone's still like developing and growing and figure out their path. No one's really, except for RJ and Mitch, but Mitch is a question mark, who solidified a role. Everyone is kind of like TBD. So what do you think the Knicks needs are now?
Well, I've been saying this all draft cycle for the Knicks. Like, the Knicks, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like a wing in particular. I just think they need guys who are going to play multiple positions. So I think ideally, if I crafted somebody in a lab, they would be somebody who could handle point guard duties, but they're like 6'7" and they could shoot. Like that way they could ideally fit next to a guy like Quickly in the backcourt, and like they don't need to initiate every set because you could still give Quickly some of those reps. But in a situation like in the playoffs, I mean, honestly, like in the finals right now, are you seeing anybody who you're like, this is the guy that Quickly represents that's going to be able to start in a finals game? And hopefully, I know this is a Knicks podcast, so I hope the answer is it Steph Curry? Like, I hope it's not that, like, that's not the answer, right? Like, because Steph's an all-time great player and he's still bigger than Quickly. So like, if Quickly is ultimately more of like your Jordan Poole, which you see how valuable that is, like, who's the guy that's going to be able to play next to him when he's coming in on fire and kind of like still keeping the pace cool, is able to play next to Grimes in the backcourt, and then is also able to kind of function off of RJ when RJ, as he continues to like get more on-ball reps as a creator, which is something that I think is going to ultimately be what he is. Like, point guard to me, like, he doesn't have to be a natural point guard. He just has to be able to play multiple positions so he can guard multiple positions. And one day he could be the wing, one day he could be a ball handler. And it just is kind of, it doesn't matter what you label him because he could fit wherever up and down the lineup. And maybe he's not even a point guard creator necessarily. There's a lot of the wings in this class that I think would fit really well. Some of them are like more 2-3. Some of them are like more 3-4. And either way, I think that's important. The Knicks will still have to figure out how to get those like 3-4 guys on the court if Randle's there and Obi's there. Because as we said, like, those are two guys who are really only playing the 4, and then the Knicks only really have guys that are playing the 5s. And you're going to want to find ways to have your 3-4 wing play with your small ball 5s who are hopefully one day like Obi. So there's stuff to figure out, but I would say versatile wings is a must, and this is definitely the draft to pick that up.
So versatile wings, and this is the draft to pick that up. So before I ask you who are the players that are like realistic for the Knicks at 11, who are those players that you're essentially giving that mold to? Who is that multi-positional player that can play either 2-3, 3-4 that fits that exact mold that you're talking about?
Like in this draft, or just in this draft?
No, in this draft.
Yeah. So I mean, ideally, it's like Dyson Daniels.
I was thinking Dyson Daniels as you're constructing that entire.
Like, ideally, like, that's like the guy who kind of solves all of the, I mean, not solves, but kind of slithers his way into helping to fix all of the kind of things I feel like the Knicks are missing, because he is, almost 6'8" in shoes with a 6'11" wingspan, played point guard for the Ignite, probably the best perimeter defender in the class. Like, he's big enough that if you need him to, he can guard a 4 and you could be okay with it because he's like a big dude. But he moves well enough that he can guard your point guards. And like, a lot of teams are upgrading the size of their point guards. Like, you're getting many more teams that are looking for that like Marcus Smart type size, which is like 6'4", 6'5" type of deal. So you can't pick on him in the playoffs. So like, he could easily stay with those guys. He could play off the ball. So he's definitely one of those guys. Like, he would be the ideal guys. And then you get into like the Matherins, the Johnny Davises, who are more of like your 2-3s. And then your like 3-4s are more of like your Tari Eason, Jeremy Sohan type guys.
Okay.
Where does Malachi Branham fall here?
Oh, Branham. Yeah, Branham's more. See, like, I definitely should have mentioned Branham because I'm a big Branham guy. I think he's in like the 1-2. Like, he's a ball handler with good enough passing chops to like be your initiator, but he's also got the shooting chops all over the court in any situation, whether it's off ball or on ball, like where he could look like Middleton on ball, and then off ball, he's just like a sniper. So he's definitely up there on the priority list if he's available for the Knicks, in my opinion, depending on who else is, still there. And I'd be remiss personally. If I didn't mention Jalen Williams, who I think also kind of falls in that mold as well, from Santa Clara, not the big man from Arkansas who takes a ton of charges.
Okay.
So like right there, my whole thing with, the rumors that we had for Ivy and jumping into the list of players that could potentially help this team, one of those people are going to fall to 11.
I'm saying, for sure. Multiple probably.
Exactly. We haven't even mentioned a bunch, like, AJ Griffin, we're hoping for that. There's a couple of players who can make, I would say, as much of a difference as Ivy to this team. And what's funny? I know that, Alex, you said you were thinking of Dyson when he was talking. Who I was thinking of, which makes me so sad? Julius Randle. Like, you're looking for a 6'8" guy with the winspan who can defend and move around, doesn't need the ball in his hand, can pop a shot.
Well, he needs the ball in his hand. That's the issue.
I'm just saying, I'm saying, like, sometimes you can just like roll up. I don't know.
He changed from being a guy who can play in the pick and roll to being the guy who needs the ball in his hand way too much. That's a sad thing.
Because in my head, I'm just like, I feel like we have that guy.
I still buy into Randall. Like, obviously, like, he has these years. It almost feels like every other year he comes in and he's like way better. But can't you see in the right circumstance, and maybe it happens down the line, like where Julius Randle is just like, you know what? I'm going to be Draymond Green who could hit a 3-point shot.
Oh my God. I don't know if he has Draymond's defensive capability, but
like offensively.
Yeah. Offensively.
In that role where you're like, he could initiate a little bit. You could put him in the short role and he could just tear people up. He can make quick decisions, like quick pick and pops, instead of this like catch and hold stuff that he does too often.
Man, the thing with Randall is that, Corey, he can exactly do all those things. And like, we've seen him do it. Yeah. We've seen him do it at a high level. And even in the year where everyone wanted him gone, his first year as a Knick, it was like, oh, wow, he actually has the capability of giving some nice dimes when he wants to. Yeah. Oh, he actually can make these decisions when he wants to. It's just like something like just like the switch like flips on and off like every season. It's like this past season was off. The season before that was on. Before that was off. Back in the Pelicans, it was on. It's like, dude, you gotta like figure this out, man. It can't like you can't short circuit the beginning of every year, but it's funny, man. I feel I agree with you. I feel like somewhere, whether it's with New York or somewhere else, Randall can be a good like third, fourth. Like I think he could be a great fourth option. I think he can be a solid third option. But getting back on track, so we got all the guys that you mentioned. Who are your three most realistic options for the Knicks at 11 right now? I mean, big boards are saying Johnny Davis, AJ Griffin, Dyson Daniels. If you really want to make me upset, you talk about go getting Mark Williams. Although I do like Mark Williams, I do like the centers. I just don't want to go get a center right now.
No, it doesn't make sense to use that capital. It doesn't make sense. But that's something we touched on a couple of days ago on Knicks Fan TV.
Facts.
Were, in that stream, like we were like, because I love Mark Williams. He's tremendous. He's an absolute monster. Like 7'2" in shoes with a 7'7" wingspan and a 9'9" standing reach. Like he is a giant person. I saw him in person twice. He's very impressive. Jalen Duren is another guy. Like I saw him in person. Like he was doing like windmill dunks like a guard in the layup lines. Like he's another guy that's really impressive. But like, do you need that at where the Knicks are when like they're still not going to play over Taj? Like, and if you're trying to win games, that honestly probably makes sense. So like, there's a weird push-pull that Knicks fans would have to live with there. If the Knicks, like, if let's say they have a bounce back year, like they're big centers are one of the two hardest positions to come in and find your groove with, because you are essentially the point guard on defense. You have the most responsibility to clean everything up. You need to know where to be at all times. And when you're with a coach who holds you accountable, like Tibbs, and you saw it with Jericho a lot this year, like he would miss a rotation, be late and give something up at the rim, or he would like foul somebody because he rotated over late and he'd get pulled. And like, that's something definitely that I think Knicks fans were upset about. But at the end of the day, like Jericho Sims is a late second round pick. He needs that kind of seasoning in order to grow in, when he's in years like 3 and 4 of his career. So he's not just making those same mistakes. And it's frustrating because he's going out there setting hard screens and like being a lob threat and like having, good showings, but it's like those little nuances that he needs to figure out. Duren definitely is going to need seasoning on that end. And then Mark Williams maybe a little bit more ready, but like even still, you still have Nerlens Noel on the roster. Technically, you still have whatever is happening with Mitch. So I mean, I guess in that scenario, you're letting them walk, but like you still have a ton of players there, and it doesn't solve the issue of guys who could play multiple positions. Like that's the same exact thing. They are only playing one position.
What can he do that Mo Bamba can't, bro? You know what I mean?
New York's own Mo Bamba.
Harlem's own Mo Bamba.
I don't think Griffin is realistic. I just
That's
don't.
My guy.
He's one of my guys too. Like a lot of people have kind of soured on him a little bit as time has gone on. I've been a big AJ guy, like from before the season started. I loved his high school tape. I look at him, and especially after watching the finals, it's like, you're telling me a team picking up top is going to have watched the Eastern Conference Finals and watched Jimmy Butler and Jaylen Brown go at it and have a guy who looks exactly like those guys to the way he even moves on the court, and he's not going to go like in the first 6 or 7 picks. Like there's just not a chance, in my opinion. 6'6", 7-foot wingspan, like 220 of muscle. And like people say he lost his athleticism. Like that is a big time overstatement. I think he's just playing more controlled and not trying to wildly jump at every single thing he gets to. So he's a guy that I think like once teams get him in workouts and interviews and stuff, like, and plus they have background on him from forever because his dad was, in the NBA for so long. So to me, it's not, unless the Knicks move up, which, obviously certainly possible. To me, he's out of the question, and always has been. So I would say like Johnny Davis, like he had a workout today with the Wizards, I believe, which that's right in the Knicks range. So right away, you got to definitely take him into consideration as being a potential Knicks guy. If he's still on the board, run to the podium and grab him as fast as you can. And I said this on the stream, like I will buy a Knicks jersey with Johnny Davis's name on it if the Knicks are able to get him. I love that guy. I would love to be able to watch him in New York at the Garden in person,
to the choir.
For the next however many years. His mentality is second to none in this draft. He's probably the best two-way guard in the draft. Like that dude has an argument with Dyson Daniels to be one of the better perimeter defenders at that spot. He measured really well at the combine, like almost 6'6" in shoes, great wingspan, competitive. What is there not to like? Like he had such I get you would look, if you're just looking at box scores, you'd be like, he's inefficient, but like he was the only guy to take shots, the only one. And he wouldn't be that in New York. He would have other people to take those bailout shots from him. So right away, I think he's going to be able to kind of come in and contribute. And I think he can be one of those guys who plays multiple positions because he's strong, because he's long, and because he's quick, especially laterally. So I think he can guard point guards. I think he can guard up and guard like threes. Fours might be a little tough for him, but he's so competitive that like there are definitely times in college where guys would try to post him up and, he'd try to front him and then he'd slither behind and just like poke away. So like he's scrappy and aggressive. So while it's not something that you want happening often, like you're not going to be like, hey, go guard Kawhi, who's playing the 4 tonight. If he gets switched, it's like he'll battle. But I think he would be like home run if that was the pick. I think that was the pick on the stream we did in the mock draft.
Yep.
I'm a big like Ochai Agbaji guy. Which is not like the sexiest name to hear, but I watched him light the Garden up at the start of the basketball season when they took on Michigan State. Like he absolutely did whatever he wanted. He's a guy that is, again, like he's a tremendous athlete. He gets like a ton of those, like what Tibbs would do. Tibbs would do the Jimmy Butler play where they run like a horn set, kick it to like, one of the bigs on the left block, have the other big set like a blind screen for him and just get like an alley-oop. Like that would be the start to every game because he's got that kind of crazy bounce. He shoots it in a variety of ways. He's not just a spot up guy. He shoots it off movement. He runs around. He doesn't need the ball in his hands, but he's developed that part of his game a little bit to where he could take some dribbles and get to his shot. And he's a winner. Guy won a national championship. And one of my things, like, is winning a skill? Because there are certain guys who just win a lot, right? Yeah. And like maybe they're not the flashiest.
Look at the Knicks, man. We can't close. No, we can't close games. Like that's what winning is. Like that's why winning is a skill, because whether you're up by a lot and you're trying to hold the other team, or you're down by a lot and you got to rally, like winning is a skill. It's hard to quantify. I think that's why people look up advanced, stats and analytics to try to quantify winning, right? Even now we got plus minus and efficiency to try to, equate to it. We even have clutch stats, right? To try to,
people are trying.
But it's very difficult. It's just something. It's just winning. You're right. Like there's something about certain players that you're just like, man, this guy wins. Like, I know it's a different sport. But for example, in football, it's a lot more common where like players go into the NFL and never lost a game, like since junior high. Like Cam Newton didn't lose a football game until he got, and then he was like, when they asked him in Carolina, he like lost. He's like, I don't know really what to do here. I haven't like lost the game like since I was a child. So I agree with you. I think there is something about, players' characteristics.
Because think about, go ahead, Alex.
No, I think like the best example is who you mentioned at the top of this pod is Jimmy Butler, right? Mm-hmm. That's a guy who legit stats don't really like do him justice. Like we can look at threes, like his 3-point shooting, and it's abysmal this season. But yet they were, but yet they were the best team, right, in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah,
and look how far they went. And there's just something to like being gritty, to whine a fight, always compete, and just like even if you're behind the 8 ball, like we're not giving up. It's just you guys said it's just so hard to quantify. There's just some sort of like aura, some sort of energy that these guys just have, and they're just able to like channel it and just focus so hard to like really achieve their goals. I don't know how you can like describe it other than that.
But it's like in the draft world, like I don't know why, but people consistently like hate on these type of players as like, you can't take them too early or whatever. And then you look at like the list, and I don't think the NBA is necessarily the same way. I think that they are a little bit, because you're not seeing these guys typically go like in the top 3 or the top 5, mm-hmm. right? But like when they go in the lottery, people like kind of freak out. Like last year, everybody was like, wait, you're telling me that you're going to take Davion Mitchell over Jaden Springer? And like Jaden Springer played like 6 NBA minutes last year and spent the entire year in the G League. And now he's going to go into his second year, which would be his junior year. Maybe he gets minutes for the Sixers, probably not. So by the time he actually gets NBA minutes, he's going to be deep into his NBA contract, almost up for a new contract. And he's going to be the same age as the guy who was ready-made. And like Davion went where he should have gone last year. Like that was the appropriate spot for him. If you look at the way he ended the season, like that was the right spot. People freaked out with Cam Johnson when he went high, myself included, right? That was a shock. I can't believe why would you take him now when you could take him later? Cam Johnson was a huge part of what Phoenix has built. Mikal Bridges, right? Like, and that's a sore subject, not only for Knicks fans, for Bulls fans as well, because that was the guy I wanted. So I was like, Michael Porter Jr.'s back is jacked up. If he falls to those spots, it's because his back is jacked up. Otherwise, he's a top 3 pick. So I want Mikal Bridges. He won multiple titles at Villanova. Like, go get the guy who is a wing, a 3-and-D guy, no nonsense, and just wins a lot. And the Knicks passed, the Bulls passed. Neither of those guys are on our teams anymore. And the Sixers passed. And if he was on the Sixers, I mean, is their future? Maybe they have a finals berth. Maybe like it could be way different. They took a kid who jumped really high, and unfortunately he had some like health stuff, but like he just wasn't a good basketball player. But like Mikal Bridges won. These guys who win, like that matters. These guys have success in the league. These guys were winning championships. Jalen Brunson, this is a guy you look at everything about him and you're like, he should not succeed, right? He should not succeed. He's short. He's kind of slow. He's like a pretty good shooter. I mean,
his dad was in the NBA, probably just here because his dad.
Yeah,
he's got everything.
But
he rides the Villanova train. Like, I agree.
But he knows how to win.
He
knows how to win. So I think winning's a skill. And like Ochai Agbaji is a guy who you don't get excited about the night you draft him as a like overall fan base, but you fall in love with him. Like even Taj, like when the Bulls drafted Taj, and that was in the 20s, like people wanted, I think it was like Marshawn Brooks or like other guys that were younger.
Marshawn Brooks.
Yeah, like that. And I can't believe we passed on this for this guy who's 24 years old coming in. It's just like these guys that are good, valuable NBA players matter. They help you build on the fringes. And that's what Memphis has done. And that's why they're so successful building around their star, because they have so much depth to supplant like the fact that when he's not there, they could still win games and like just take some of the load off of his shoulders so he doesn't have to do everything. So I think winning's a skill. I think Agbaji would be a great get for the Knicks, even if some people might think it's like a little rich at 11.
Okay. Because well, he's projected to go around 13,
yeah, it's not,
14. It's not.
Yeah, it's not like crazy, but like it's again, he's just not sexy in the same way some other guys would be. Like his draft stock has, because one of the things I do for No Ceiling is I track the draft stock of players from the start of the season to the end of the season. His draft stock after he won a national title literally went down like on the major outlets. It doesn't make sense.
How do you win and then you drop? It's like, well, you did win, but
it goes to everyone who wins. It goes to the system, right? Like for example,
exactly.
The Zags. Everybody that comes from the Zags, you say, oh, it's because the system. And I would say more than 50% of the time they're actually right. And that's what stinks at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Because you're watching these college teams, you're like, dude, I watched the season, I watched the conference tournaments, I watched the bracket, and they hold up. And then as soon as they transfer to the summer league, you're like, dude, this guy is just not. This is not going to work out. You know what I mean? You can tell in 2 seconds sometimes.
Well, let's look at that for a second. Here we go with another Nick KJ famous tangent. We're looking at like you talk about winning, right? And you talk about a system, and if it does work for a college basketball team more than half the time, what does it say about the player? They're willing to sacrifice, give up whatever, like maybe personal gain for themselves for the betterment of the team. Isn't that also part of winning? Saying like I'm willing to be selfless and just make sure that my teammates, the entire organization's willing to win. Like that's another characteristic of winning that I don't think you can just quantify at all. So when you hear guys, we even talk about this for like the Jets on our Jets pod, like getting those guys with the right character that come in, that are going to put the team first, that are going to put in the work and the effort, that are just, it's just the good character guys. If that's what Agbaji is, that's amazing. Like I wouldn't be upset with that at all. And look, there's guys, we've drafted guys like that too. Like we drafted Quentin Grimes. People are like, Quentin Grimes, who's this? Deuce McBride. Oh my God, what's this? And then you start hearing in the background. Then you watch them in summer league. I'm like, oh my God, we love these guys. It's like the name doesn't have to be sexy draft night. Like as much as I would love Johnny Davis, Corey's selling me on Agbaji right now, and I'm like, all right, Abaji's a cool option. So who's the third option though, Corey? Who's the third one that you got on deck?
I could go with like Mathurin, but I have a feeling he goes earlier as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go with a little wild card, just because I absolutely love this dude. I have him top 10 on my personal board. It's Jalen Williams from Santa Clara.
Okay.
He's not a guy that a lot of people know about or kind of knew about prior to this month, because he played at Santa Clara and won, like, for us New Yorkers, like earlier we were talking about like, the game starts at 9. The NBA finals start at 9 tonight. Like that sucks. And so imagine watching like game 15 of Santa Clara in the West Coast Conference. Like there's no way, you know what I mean? So the general public isn't going to be hot on a guy like this, but this dude is a baller, man. He, like, just to start it out, like my 2 comps for him are either like has his head on his shoulders, Kevin Porter Jr., or like a slightly less bursty SGA. Like that's the type of guy he is. He is just a smooth operator. I think he's the best pick and roll player in the class. 6'6", 7'2.5" wingspan. Had one of the best vertical leaps at the combine. And at the combine was really where like he kind of, I mean, you still have to be pretty into like the draft to be paying attention to the NBA draft combine. But it's a little more popular than like what he's doing in, January or whatever. So he kind of had like a coming out party there because he just absolutely killed it. He killed it in the scrimmages. He killed it in drills and in all the measurements or whatever. So I think that as a guy who has the wingspan and the size to guard up and down, ran point guard for his team, and is unbelievably creative passer, unbelievably smart player, doesn't hold the ball too long. Like in transition, he hits ahead early. And then in the pick and roll, like it's really hard to guard him because if you go under the screen, he's going to knock down the three. He's got good range. He shot 40% for three this year. And when you go over, he plays with such an impressive pace. Like he's that guy who gets you on his back, snakes the screen. And then now the big man is having to guard the two, guys at the same time, playing that cat and mouse game. And it's like, he's got the mid-range, like a mid-range killer to make you pay there. And then if you overplay it, he's got the lob threat, which like for the Knicks, like he would be great playing in that pick and roll with Mitch, with a guy like Obi, with a guy like Nerlens Noel. And then he can make all those advanced reads to the weak side. I mean, there are a couple of like specific instances where that you're just like, oh my God, like that was unbelievable pass, like one-handed, left-handed live dribble, like cross court whip in traffic, like wrap around. Like he's so much
He's really
fun.
A guy, huh?
He's so much fun, man.
This is Corey's guy for sure.
And
I feel like he's been defending him for weeks at this point.
My two guys are him and Ryan Rollins. Those are my two like teams are sleeping on these kids, and like kind of similar, but Jalen Williams, he's got a little bit more size, so it's easier to see it. But he's just, I love how he approaches the game, his mentality, his IQ. If the Knicks drafted him, everyone would be like, who the hell is Jalen Williams? Like, who is this guy? But I'm telling you, like, this kid is a baller, like a, general manager who I've spoken with has like told me like this is a guy I've had my eye on for a couple of years. Like he's kind of a secret, but like not really. Like he's on the radar, but he's not like priority on the radar. But people are like, this is a guy who I've actually been like watching like pretty.
Well,
intently.
That's how I feel about Dyson that we mentioned earlier. I feel like that way about Branham. Like everybody, and like I think I think he's doing pretty well now in the offseason. So I think his name's coming up, but I feel like nobody's talked about him all year. Shout out to Ohio State. But as soon as you said a guy that nobody's talking about, the first name that came up to me was, I know it's not a first round pick, more towards the second round, but honestly, that's where the Knicks been hitting. The Knicks been hitting in the second round, and it's Grimes' co-MVP, right, from last year. Marcus Camby's godson, Etienne.
I like him.
Do you have any notes on those two guys? I mean,
on Tyson Etienne, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you started off the show calling the finals a distraction to the NBA draft. So I feel like you might have something on second round picks. He's one of those guys. Like I think it was the first game of the season. He was one of the guys on my watch list that I was really intently watching. He literally hit like a game winner from the logo as like a regular pull-up shot. Mm-hmm. Like that's how he got on the map. That's like how he got on the map. Like he is the guy who has like that shifty, like wildly impressive space creation ability, crazy range, jacks up a ton of threes, but like his big thing. And that was one of the reasons, like I liked him kind of as a sleeper in last year's draft. But when he went back, I was like, all right, can he start finishing around the hoop better? Can he develop like a floater? Like he's just wildly inefficient at the college level. And like, he really didn't improve on that stuff this year, but he does have a game that is much more tailored towards like the NBA than college basketball. It is weird. Some of these guys just stylistically, like you could envision them operating in space differently. Like he's a good athlete. He's stocky. Like it would not surprise me if he went like early in the second round, because I just think he does. Like sometimes when I look at those kinds of second round players, it's like, does this person have an elite skill? It's either like, are they like a super skilled jack of all trades wing, or do they have like an elite skill? And like he has an elite skill as a shot maker. It's just about a team going, can I hone this into a point where he can consistently be a guy who is impressing with his shot making? But
he kind of reminds me of like Terry Rozier a little bit. And, Terry Rozier was definitely a higher level prospect just because he had some of the other stuff, but that's like who he reminds me of.
That'd be nice in the second round. Little IQ action.
I mean, that would be like a light the garden on fire. Like if both of those guys are playing and they're both going off, like deafening in the garden.
Oh my God. Now
we'll keep that one in the back burner.
He's probably got one of the better highlight reels because of how insane he is as a shot maker. Like his full game tape probably isn't as impressive as other players, but he's definitely one of those guys who like you put the mixtape on
highlights.
Like, what are we doing? It's actually funny. Like we're doing, I was supposed to do it this week, but my buddy who I'm doing it with got COVID. So he's like, the day we were supposed to record, he's like, I feel terrible. I can't do anything. But my idea was to have him on my draft show as a guy who doesn't follow the draft all year round. Okay. I sent him the top 10 guys in no particular order. And I was like, just go watch whatever you want to watch on YouTube that isn't a full game, because that's how a lot of people approach the draft. And I want to see what his opinion on some of these guys and the order that he would order them in as somebody who isn't like maybe overthinking some of the aspects of the game. Because I do think I'm going to be the weird guy who follows the draft so intently, basically only watches, like I don't like go to Synergy clips or like I've never used Synergy. Like I go watch full games, but I'm going to be the weird guy that says sometimes there's something to watching the highlights and not overthinking basketball because it's basketball. And like there are certain things like you can watch the way a dude moves on the floor and be like, he looks exactly like a basketball player is supposed to move. Now, sometimes you get a Kevin Knox when you watch a highlight tape and you're like, that's why you have to watch the full games. But there's something to just not overthinking it and being like, this dude looks like he could really hoop. So I'm interested to see like how accurate he kind of gets to the perceptions. It's something that I think is going to be a kind of a fun wrinkle.
Well, I think like to that point, right? Like there is the term getting lost in the sauce. And sometimes we get, even when we analyze teams, we get a little lost in the sauce. I'm like, what do we actually need? I love those images of, I forget where it's from, but like you have one guy who's looking at rocks and he looks depressed, one guy looking at the sun on like the field of trees and he looks happy. Yeah. And it's like someone's like, but the guy looking at the walls like, but the advanced analytics and he looks depressed is like, it doesn't say that he's a good player. And then you have the guy looking out into the field is like, that boy, nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, sometimes you just need to be like that. But then
it's all about Grimes, by the way. I feel like Grimes, you have to watch a full game instead of the highlights. Because like I feel like if you watch Grimes highlights, you can be like whatever. But if you watch Grimes, he's always in the right position, and the way he fights over the screens, like that's not going to be in the highlight tape. So I've kind of been pushing a little bit the other way on that narrative, just a little bit when it comes to basketball, because I just feel like you could tell so fast. Like you could just tell in 2 seconds Kevin Knox was not that guy. I'm sorry. I feel like we're just ragging on him now, but like you just see him and he's just hanging out. He's hiding in the corner. Like you can't hide in the corner and play mediocre defense. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. But so much of Knox is his mentality. That's, and the way that he approaches things. Because if he was just like if he had like a mental toughness to him, even if he didn't turn out to be like a guy who was worthy of being a top 10 pick, he would still be a rotational player just based off all of the tools that he has. But I agree with you 100%. You should not scout players and only watch the highlights. I just think sometimes you could look at a way a guy moves on the court and be like, all right, like this dude plays basketball. Like he's not going through progressions in his head. Like he's one-on-one with a trainer. Like he's a natural out there. You watch for like the nuance and see like, okay, but can he actually play in an NBA game now? Like now you figure that out. Like he passed the first barrier of entry. But what's interesting about Grimes is like, I bet if you go back and watch his high school mixtape, like he looks crazy. Like he was a guy who came in when he was going to Kansas, like he was supposed to be a top 10 pick. So like he has that pedigree to him. It just took him a couple of years to kind of figure it out. But I think when we look back, like Grimes is going to be one of the better players in his draft. And obviously like it's a legendary draft. So I mean like he's going to be one of the guys. No? Yeah, I think so. He's going to be, I hope so.
Let's go.
I mean, like I don't remember what show I did. I did some show and I was like, I did the Locked On Knicks show and they asked me to choose like rank the like put a big board for the Knicks players, but like in this current draft. And I had Grimes like above Quickly, which, you know, was something that a lot of people vehemently disagree with, but I'm just like, maybe if Quickly hits his ultimate ceiling, I guess like I see the vision, but like that's so rarely the case. And I think Grimes is a guy who is going to be like, you're going to be watching the finals 7 years from now, and maybe it's with the Knicks, maybe it's not, but he's just going to be a guy that you're like, okay, I know this. He's not getting played off the floor, and he's probably going to be better than friggin' Max Strus was, right? Like, you know, and
you're speaking my language, bro.
No, that's
language.
Look, but it's a fact. Like when you watch, like I understand why people would get upset because, and I understand the sentimental factor for like Knicks fans. We finally won like a late first round draft pick. We finally found somebody that contributed, and he was contributing before Obi was, and he's still an important piece of this team. But like when you watch Grimes play, like Quickly was known coming into the NBA like a little streaky when it came to being a shooter. Like that was out there. Grimes is pretty consistent, even his NBA debut, like shooting wise, pretty solid and consistent. Even defensively, you knew what you were getting like night in and night out, and that's baseline a role player, and being a role player in the NBA, which is most of the NBA to begin with. That's a hit. That's a
played
win.
in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Knows how to win.
That's a fact. That
Full
is
circle.
a fact. And it's funny, but I'm really interested in that video that you're talking about because I feel like that's a lot of like owners when it comes to basketball. Like they don't watch any college basketball. I feel like obviously I'm like overstating, but once March Madness comes around, they literally go, "That boy's nice." And that's who they want on the team.
The Vivek special.
Yeah. Facts.
The Nick Stauskas. The Nick Stauskas.
I like that.
But Corey, before we get you out of here, we gotta ask about your Bulls, man. As usual, your Chicago Bulls, man.
Yep.
They got a pick in the first round this year.
We do
18.
They got problems with their free agent last year, man. Their boy Lonzo, man.
I
Who
know
knows what's going on there.
It doesn't seem great. Is what the reports are. Like the reports are tough because he was so good for us this year. I've kind of been like I've done like a 180 on Lonzo from where he was like in college to where he is now. I mean, he was amazing in college. Like you look at his number, even his shooting numbers, you're like, oh my God, like this is unbelievable. He looks like
funky
Nash.
jumper and all,
yeah, like,
man. It was still nasty.
Yeah, it looks terrible, but it used to fall from the logo.
Yeah, but I was like very much so like De'Aaron Fox was my guy in that draft.
The battle of Fox.
Yeah, like De'Aaron Fox. I was like, this dude, like he's gonna like look at his mentality, murder him. And then, you know, with the Lakers, Lonzo really struggled, but then just the work ethic for him to turn his jumper around and become a viable shooter and become a completely different player because of it at the NBA level. And to me, like it's not a surprise that when he went out, the Bulls started struggling. And it's not a surprise that like the Celtics really started turning it on and a little bit beforehand, but like when they got Derek White. Because and that's kind of the appeal with Dyson Daniels as well. Like these big connecting guys who could play up and down and either be your point guard or play off ball. Like they're very important and they lead to winning, especially when they can defend all over the place. So, and in the Bulls case, like Caruso also got, you know, tackled in midair by Grayson Allen. So that happened all at the same time. So that's not surprising the Bulls started struggling when their two best defenders got hurt. But his knee issues, it's not great right now. And the Bulls
I think Caruso, dude. Caruso is the whole squad.
I mean, I can't believe how much I enjoy watching Alex Caruso. Like he's definitely the guy that you hate if he's not on your team and he's playing against your team, but he is so damn good. He's a terrible shooter. Not one shot this entire year did I go, I think he's going to hit this shot. And like, there's not like anything super wrong with his jumper. It's just so stiff that every time he shoots it, I'm like, I guess the percentages say it's got to go in 30 something % of the time, but like, I never feel confident, but he can score 0 points and still have like the highest impact on the game. Cause he's like one of the best defenders I've seen on the Bulls, like in so long. Cause he has no problem bodying up and guarding. Like he's a lot like Drew Holiday in the way that like, he's probably bigger than you think he is, like taller than he is. He's strong. But when he went down, that was rough. But because of that, I do think that the Bulls could approach the draft looking for another one. Like Jalen Williams is a guy that I think should be on the Bulls radar, like for a lot of those same reasons that I would be really happy with. And then the other thing the Bulls need is they need more guys who are like small ball fives, but like modern fours. So like EJ Liddell is a guy that I would love the Bulls to draft, the other Ohio State product. He tested really well at the combine, and it shows like it was functional athleticism. It was stuff he showed in his college season this year as like a shot blocker and whatnot. And it's interesting because if you watch the film sessions with Mike Schmitz and watch as many of those as you can, if you're in the draft and like there are players in your range, because he breaks down film with them and you learn so much about how players approach the game. And it was the single deciding factor as to why, like last minute, I decided to move Io DeSumo up my board last year into the first round. And he was a steal for the Bulls in the second round. But EJ Liddell blew me away from his interview. He's so smart. He's 6'7", 7+ wingspan, really good, like one-step vert leaper. Doesn't need the ball in his hands at the next level, but could hit tough shots if you really, really needed him to, but like going to be able to space the floor. And he's like the kind of guy I think the Bulls need, like that Grant Williams type player, like Paul Millsap, like that kind of dude. Like the Bulls need that. Patrick Williams is, hopefully he makes a little bit of jump. I think he's fine right now. Bulls fans kind of love him the way that Knicks fans love Obi. And I mean, definitely Obi, but like more like quickly. Cause like, they look at him as the number 4 pick, and
I think we just hate Randle.
With Patrick Williams, they look at him as like, I mean, his nickname is the Paw because like he looks like Kawhi on the court, but like he's just never aggressive enough for me, and like that was his big thing in Florida State too. That he just was not really aggressive. Like he came off the bench, he did his thing. He's like a robot, and that's part of the Kawhi comparisons, but he's not an aggressive dude. And sometimes he looks unbelievable, and then other times he just kind of fades. So we need more of that. Obviously, Mitch took him out earlier in the season, and that led to, part of the depth issues for the Bulls in the front court, not having him, and that probably hurt his development in year 2. But, we'll forgive that. So hopefully he has a big year 3, but I think they could use more guys like him in case he isn't this, potential all-star guy that some of the Bulls fans think that, he could be.
Bulls Twitter came out with a pitchfork and torches ready to go after Mitchell Robinson. Here we go. Here we go. It was just a basketball play, guys. It was just a basketball play. Let's calm down. So, well, I got one question for you for the Chicago Bulls, because some mock drafts are putting Ousmane Dieng there. What's your opinion if that's the direction the Bulls went?
I really like him. Dieng is so this kid. If you watch his full games from the beginning of the season, you're like, this kid's probably should stay out of the draft until like 2024. He was terrible, just all types of bad, just nothing good. Like he'd flash the interesting things like a possession or two, but he wasn't getting a ton of minutes. He just wasn't good. And then all of a sudden it just clicked. And all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, this is why people thought he was a potential lottery pick coming into the year. Cause he's 6'10", he handles the ball like a guard, and he passes it like a guard. Like some of the pick and roll reads he makes, the feel, the way, like the timing, the touch is pretty phenomenal. Like it's, I don't even know, like it's elite territory. Some of the reads that he makes that doesn't mean he's like potentially going to be like a Luka Doncic type usage guy. He's much more of like a off-ball guy who's like running like the offense, like coming off like handoffs or like second side pick and roll reads, like not walk the ball up the floor kind of guy, especially early. He's still raw, but he's a good shooter. He's long. I think he's going to be able to defend. Like his length definitely, gets in people's way. I think that ultimately, like if he hits a ceiling, you're looking at like Paul George with a little bit less bounce, but maybe a better passer. But, it's hard to argue it for a player that's going to hit his ceiling. But like somebody, I texted, somebody, who works in the league about him when he started coming on. I'm like, dude, like this passing feel, like it's crazy. And he's like, if you're a team that is analytics based, you're going to miss on him because you actually have to watch him play.
Interesting.
Because
do you think there's teams like that? Do you think there's teams like that in the NBA right now
that are analytical?
That are just like are so analytical, are so far on one side of the spectrum that they would actually miss
I think
players
so.
like this? Oh,
I think so. Because there's risk with him for sure. Like
that was kind of like Morey with the Rockets. Like it was so extreme with 3-point shooting. That's legit. Like the contract was to have James Harden just to have open lanes with like a center. Like I feel like that's something like around Morey's field for being so analytical.
Morey was so analytical that he was like, draft picks don't matter at all. And I think they picked one draft pick for the Rockets when he was when James Harden was there. He's like, we don't need draft picks. Like the chance there, like he probably like his equation was like, is this draft pick going to be better than whatever player we are trading the pick for? And most of the time the answer is probably no, because you already have the results in front of you for the player. You know what they could do in the league versus like the mystery of a draft pick. But I do think there are teams that would operate like that, where they would go with the guy who more so like kills in the analytics versus, especially if it's like a comparable situation versus the guy who like is a little bit more raw with potential. There are definitely front offices that I think would be more willing to take the risk. I think OKC is a team that would be more willing to, especially
and better be what they have all those draft picks.
They have so many picks, so like they have more shots at it. So like he's a guy that I think is a very realistic target for them at 12. But yeah, I definitely think there are certain front offices that like would stay away just because of that.
Okay, solid.
Interesting, man. That I mean, I don't think the Knicks are one of those, so it doesn't scare me too much. But that's a scary thought. I don't know, like that kind of worries me. But
I mean, ultimately, I think like a lot of these like front office like guys, like they come from now, like the trend is a lot of them come from these analytics backgrounds. So that's naturally how they're going to approach it. I think it's who they're going to tend to like surround themselves with. And that doesn't mean that they're not sending out scouts to go watch guys play. Right. But it's a little bit harder to go see Ousmane Dieng play a lot during the year when he's playing for New Zealand versus, hey, let me go to Rutgers to go see Johnny Davis play tonight. You know what I mean? Like it's way easier.
No one's watching Dyson either because no one's watching G League games.
Well, luckily for him, the G League program is attached to the NBA. And I saw the G League guys on Long Island, which was nice. At the Coliseum, which was a nice easy drive instead of having to like go into Brooklyn or
hey man,
get on the LIRR or something.
I love going to Westchester Knicks games when I'm home. That is the easiest. First of all, one, they're cheap. All right, $50.
G League games are awesome. G League games are amazing.
They are, and like they really need like more. Actually, not too much.
Yeah,
because you get in and out in like efficient time. No like commercial, not a lot of commercial breaks. Nothing. You get in, you get through the half, 15 minutes, another half finish. $50. You go to Westchester County, which is like right in my hometown. You're sitting courtside. They have like they take up to like the stage because it's playing in where they have like a lot of the graduations in the area. So like you're legit on the stage, and they have like a carving station. Like you just go get like your plate full of food, and you're like, that's it. Like you're eating good, and you're sitting down for $50. Like you feel like a king,
dude,
queen or whatever.
The Long Island. I went to a Nets game to see. They were playing the Windy City Bulls. So I wanted to see. I think Bol was playing because the Nuggets don't have a G League team, so like they send their guys to the Bulls for whatever reason. And I was right behind. I paid $9 for the ticket. I was like 3 rows behind the bench, and then because there's just not a lot of people there, they selected me as one of the people to take like the half court shot at halftime.
Nice,
because they were just like, we need somebody to do this, and you're here.
Don't tell me you hit it. Don't tell me you hit it, Corey.
No, I didn't.
First of all, I'm about to say, if I didn't see a video of you hitting the half court shot, I'd be so pissed.
Yeah, I would have. If I did that, I would probably like retweet it on Twitter like once every 2 weeks, maybe. I don't. But what they don't tell you about, one, I was like, I had the right length. I was just off left. Like it was good touch, good arc. I just missed wide left a little bit by like, probably a basketball width from hitting the rim. But they give you street balls, right? They're not giving you the balls that the players are using, the nice soft, Wilson, Spalding, whatever. Yeah. No, it's literally a street ball that has a PSI of like 100. So you need to either completely bank it clean in or get enough arc to have it hit nothing but net. If it hits the rim at all, it's going 100 feet in the air.
Oh yeah. They don't want you to win, man. Come on. They don't want you to win.
But the prize was courtside seats to another game. And I was like, I paid $9 for the seats I'm in now. I'm behind the bench. Like, what kind of prize is that? Like, I'd rather can I keep the ball instead?
You don't want that ball. That's why they give you the street ball, so you don't ask for it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's actually really funny.
That's awesome.
Usually it's like 20,000, 25,000, something, even to charity. They're like, yeah, you can come back here next time. Keep shooting. It's like Family Feud.
Come watch the Long Island Nets play the 905 Raptors. You know what it is. Oh man. But Corey, there's been a lot of fun talking to you, man. It's 8:51. We got an NBA Finals game that's about to start.
Let's go.
So please let the listeners know where they can find you, although they should know where to find you since you've been
distracting NBA Finals, distracting Corey from the draft.
Oh man. You can find me on Twitter at Corey Tulaba, YouTube NBA Draft Dude, YouTube No Ceilings TV. We got a lot of fun streams coming up. I think we're gonna do like live scout, like film sesh live, I think we're gonna call it, where we like break down players' games during a stream, which is gonna be a lot of fun. And then at noceilingsnba.com, which is where we write every single day, Monday through Friday, about the draft. You could subscribe to that. That's free. And we just released our draft guide over there on the site that you can get through. You can find the link for the merch store. And we released our draft guide, 58 in-depth player breakdowns of our top 58 prospects in the class, as well as a full line of merch, hoodies, t-shirts, snapbacks, flip-flops, shorts, coffee mugs. I don't know. We got a whole bunch of stuff there that's really cool. Like straight, it's really exciting. The love that we got from the launch was really, really cool. So I appreciate, all the people who do follow me and, helped out with that. That was really, really good stuff. And I mean, it's June 2nd as of when we're recording this. So 3.5 weeks or so is when the draft is, or 3 weeks exactly, I guess. And I mean, it's going to be complete chaos in the draft world until then with all the content we got. So definitely lock in if you're interested in figuring out who the Knicks should draft and going back and forth probably 100 times between like 8 different guys the Knicks could possibly pick.
Oh, well, there you got it.
What do you got in the series? What do you got in the series?
What do I got in this series? Oh, God. Well,
I didn't even ask.
You know what's weird? I like basically every player on the Celtics except for Daniel Tice. I like their coach. But I'm a guy who roots for the name on the front, not the back. And I hate the Celtics. I just cannot root for the franchise. So I hope I'm not biased there. I feel like I got the Warriors in 6. The Celtics really had 2 tough series. I mean, I think if they were a little bit more fresh, maybe I'd pick them in 7, but I think they've got to be banged up. Smart's been in and out of the lineups. Time Lord's been in and out of the lineups. The Warriors are relatively healthy. Clay's finding his groove, and there's such a different look to any of the teams that the Celtics have played in the playoffs so far. They play such a different style, chasing those guards around and running them off screens for, a 7-game series, like for a team that's already tired and beat up and like limping to the finish line of a, 2 7-game series. Like, I think I'm just the pedigree that the Warriors have. I'm going to go Warriors in 6.
Yeah. All right. Alex.
Well, I have Warriors in 7. I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a battle.
Celtics in 7.
What?
Yeah, I know. Wow. Defense wins championships, but they've been the best defensive team since January, and most efficient offensive team as well. I don't know what else to do. Like, I don't know. I've been trying to count them out every single game since the All-Star break. I promise you. And then once Williams went down, I was like, oh, that's it. It's over. Like we're good to go here. Game 7, in Miami, like, this is it. They're just not going to go away because they're the best defensive team.
And that's why we'll go 7.
All the pieces. It drives me nuts. But I think it's going to be Boston 7. I hate it. I hope I'm wrong with every fiber in my being.
The Warriors can play defense though.
Okay.
They play defense too. Like Draymond is, the defender of the generation. It's the finals. Like Klay's not who he used to be, but I think he could still, like, he still knows what to do on the court. Curry is underrated. He's not Marcus Smart on that end by any stretch, but he's not a guy that like you can consistently pick on. I don't think. Like, I think that would be a bad strategy. Wiggins is like, for all the Wiggins. I mean, he's getting some love this year, so I don't want to say like
he's gotten some love this year. Let's keep it real. He's gotten some love because
he's gotten some love this year.
But he got a lot of. He did get a lot of slander over the last
over the course of his career. He's gotten
a lot of slander.
But he's kind of the type of guy you would want to like guard like Tatum or Jaylen Brown, like that mold of guy. So you can kind of, who knows? I mean, obviously, I'm not counting on Kuminga or Moody to give anything, but I don't know. They've been there before so many times. I think Steph smells it. Like, this is this is like my ultimate legacy. Like, oh, you're gonna say that I don't have.
He goes like,
I didn't win Finals
MVP
to
top point guard, bro. He goes from top shooter to top point guard.
4 titles. He gets like a Finals MVP. Finally, nobody could say anything about that anymore. Nobody could be like, oh, Durant was there, even though
2 rings without Durant.
Even though he won one, like, and meanwhile Durant is at the point of his career where he's getting smacked by a team in the first round. Like, I mean, this is a legacy thing for the Warriors as much as anything. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Celtics won. They're a really great team.
It wouldn't be a shock if they won, but my thing is that it goes to the pedigree of the Warriors, the veteran savviness that they have on the team. You have 4 guys. I mean, if you even include Kevon Looney, with Draymond, Steph, Klay, like those guys have been there before. The thing with me and the Celtics, man, and I have like legitimately.
He's in the zone right now too. You are in the danger zone.
I legit have no like I get the whole Boston hate, like especially when it comes to the Red Sox, the Patriots with me. Celtics, I legit have like no gripe with. I mean, they're divisional rivals, but I look at that team and I see such a young squad that has like somehow mustered its way to Game 7s twice in a row. And it's like they only get there because there's like a carelessness to them where they're just like turning the ball over or they pull their foot off the pedal when they're up. And they almost blew that game against the Heat, coming out to the final seconds. Like,
it's dangerous stuff.
They play with fire and they do not make it easy. The Warriors smell that and they feast on that.
And the thing is, like, they're the Warriors, and this has been the case for 10 years. Like, it's not like their 3-point shooters are Duncan Robinson, who gets played off the floor. Like, their 3-point shooters, if they throw the ball away for no reason, like, because, what was it, Game 2? Like, they had 1,000 turnovers, and they were just giving the ball to Miami. Like, Tatum making a short roll pass, except he's throwing it to the defender that's at, waiting to tag at the rim.
Legit handing it to all.
Yeah, everybody. Or like you do that against the Warriors and they just hit 5 threes in a 3-minute span. And all of a sudden it's a 20-point game. And you're like, my 4 turnovers just led to a 20-point swing out of nowhere somehow. Like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
The Heat didn't have that. They couldn't put points on the board in a hurry. Like, without Middleton, Milwaukee couldn't put points on the board in a hurry because they didn't have like the shooters to do it. It was everything in those 2 series was like, we have to contain Jimmy Butler getting to the rim. We have to contain Giannis getting to the rim, Drew Holiday getting to the rim.
And those guys still got their points.
And they did. They did. But like, there's nobody else to make them pay except for the one guys. Like, the Warriors have multiple avenues to make you pay.
Look, even Jordan Poole, he can go get hot.
Right.
He can go get hot.
He's as much a wild card guy as anybody.
So I got the Warriors at 7. Corey's got it at 6. John's got the Celtics at 7.
Unfortunately,
he says. This is just, I don't know if this is you or the gambling side of you. Where it's like, I bet against them too many goddamn times. I got to be right at one of these times.
I've been betting with them. Unfortunately, like I of course for the series, no, because I'm just like, I hope they lose every series, but man, they're inevitable. They've been inevitable since January. So I don't know. It's just what I see.
Well, once again, another KJE fashion. We go off the rails towards the end of the pod. Thank you once again to Corey for coming on. Make sure to go check out No Ceilings. Make sure to go check out the NBA Draft Dude, all right, on YouTube. Go check out all of his stuff. Make sure to go support No Ceilings. They really do great work over there. Look, if you got Substack, go download the Substack app. Make your life even easier. Get all of your subscriptions in one place. That's what I do to go check out No Ceilings. Hey, buy some merch. Look, I checked out that Knicks article. Let me tell you, when everyone said switchable guys, wings, I was like, you're all reading my mind. I love it. Love it. Someone said center. I was like, what? No, we're not doing
Was
that.
It Alex? I think it was Alex Knicks draft.
I don't think he's I think he may have said center, like a big, but he really just came back around to the wing later on. I was like, thank you for coming back around. Thank you. But on that note, thank you once again for Corey for coming on the show. And everyone, you know what to do if you haven't done so already. Please make sure to subscribe. We're on all audio listening platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, Alexa, Stitcher, you name it, we're there. If you listen to us on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to give us that 5-star rating. And if you listen to us on Apple, please make sure to leave a comment. We're also partnered with Fanside and Minute Media, so you can find us on the Jet Press and the Daily Knicks. Also, you can go find us on YouTube, Knicks, Jets, etc. Period. Subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way, you know when a new episode drops. Hit the like button, leave a comment. While you're over there, we got another podcast, Winning Picks Weekly. John, video producer Greg, co-host, and our guy Chip Murphy. They go down every single sport and give you your betting takes. All right, you need to put money down the line. These guys got you covered. And then last and certainly not least, please make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. We're there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for another Knicks episode of the Knicks, Jets, etc. podcast. We out.
Let's go Knicks. Speaking about dumb bets, I think the dumbest bet I have today is exact score 108-105. Golden State's plus 17,000.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Let's go.
That's